Connected.
The president will talk to any country that picks up the phone to call, and I can tell you the phones have been ringing off the hook.
Tariff tensions escalate. The new reality of trade now sinking in. And big wins at the Supreme Court. How back-to-back rulings are now changing the landscape for the Trump agenda. Then later, discharged for not getting a COVID shot. Years later, what the Army is doing to make things right. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and it was looking like a new day on Wall Street, where the markets were up most of the morning and afternoon. But as you take a look right here, all three indices, the Dow Jones, the S&P, the Nasdaq, they finished in the red after a late sell-off wiped out early gains. Still, the White House says they are open to new trade deals.
The president's message has been simple and consistent from the beginning. To countries around the world, bring us your best offers, and he will listen. Deals will only be made if they benefit American workers and address our nation's crippling trade deficits.
China, for their part, says they will fight to the end against rising tariffs against them. As of midnight tonight, the 104% tariffs will be in effect. As national correspondent Matt Galka explains, the administration is sticking by its strategy as frustration and concern grows among some Republicans.
And I just don't get it. The White House's point person on tariffs told senators that the president's strategy is already working.
Nearly 50 countries have approached me personally to discuss the president's new policy and explore how to achieve reciprocity. Our large and persistent trade deficit has been over 30 years in the making, and it will not be resolved overnight, but all of this is in the right direction.
Countries around the world are responding in various ways, with the White House saying some have already agreed to cut tariffs on some products, while others have no plans to respond with retaliatory levies of their own. Other countries have promised to send delegations for in-person talks. The markets have been on a roller coaster since the tariff threats, and frustration's been mounting because of the uncertainty. Home Depot co-founder and major Republican donor Ken Langone bashed the tariffs in an interview with the Financial Times, saying in part, "I believe he's been poorly advised by his advisors about this trade situation." Some Republican senators used Greer's meeting to voice their own concerns, saying their constituents have reached out to them nervously about their financial futures.
And I hope you and the president are very sensitive about companies potentially going bankrupt by these actions.
Because it's a novel approach, it needs to be thought out. Whose throat do I get to choke if this proves to be wrong?
Well, Senator, you can certainly always talk to me, but
are you at the tip of the spear?
Well, I'm at the tip of the spear for certainly.
Did you?
There's also a battle brewing seemingly within the White House itself on the approach to tariffs. Billionaire turned presidential advisor Elon Musk and White House trade advisor Peter Navarro have been publicly feuding. Musk pushed for a zero-tariff situation between the U.S. and Europe. Navarro has since called Musk and his company Tesla car assemblers, not manufacturers. Musk posted Tuesday on X that Navarro was a moron. What happens with China is the question looming over the entire tariff debate. The U.S. and China have continually threatened more tariffs against each other, and Beijing has vowed to fight until the very end on the issue. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Galka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
At least 25 people across 7 states are now dead following days of severe weather that's caused widespread destruction. Unrelenting downpours have swelled rivers to dangerous levels in the Midwest and the South. The Kentucky River crested yesterday just below the record set in 1978, just over 48 feet. The flooding submerged entire communities. Kentucky Rivertown residents, they say they have to wait for the floodwaters to recede before rebuilding.
We're just going to wait till good Lord takes it back out. When he gets finished putting it up here, he can take it back when he's finished.
Today, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear urged people to avoid travel. He said over 140 people have been rescued and more than 450 roads have been closed. The Keystone oil pipeline in North Dakota is shut down after a rupture caused a leak. Authorities say the spill happened in a rural area and is confined to an agricultural field. The cause of the break is not immediately clear. The Keystone pipeline carries oil from Canada to refineries in the U.S. The U.S. Supreme Court hands the Trump administration another win, at least for now. The High Court is allowing the administration to keep fired probationary federal workers off the federal payroll until their lawsuits are adjudicated in lower courts. This overturns a district judge ruling that said the workers needed to be rehired. This also comes after the justices in a 5-4 decision ruled that President Trump was able to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, but noted the accused must be notified and given the chance to contest their removal in court. Still, Attorney General Pam Bondi applauded the decision this morning on Fox.
This is a landmark victory for the rule of law, and this is what we've been arguing on behalf of President Trump from day one. These are enemies of our state, of our country, and they should be deported.
Migrants who were temporarily allowed to live in the U.S. via an online appointment app are now being told to leave immediately. The Trump administration is urging people who use the Biden-era CBP One app, now called CBP Home, to self-deport using the same app. Almost 1 million people have used it since January 2023, and many were allowed to work under parole. Migrants under deportation orders could face hefty fines if they don't leave. The Trump administration plans to charge them up to $998 a day and potentially take their property, according to Reuters. This could amount to over $1 million over 5 years. DHS mentioned the fines in an online post last month, and it is not clear when they will take effect. At the border, President Trump has said repeatedly he wants to wage war on cartels. Tonight, there's new evidence that may involve the U.S. military, as Christine Frizzell reports.
The pressure campaign against Mexican cartels began on President Trump's first day in office as he signed an executive order designating them a foreign terrorist organization.
President Trump, if cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations, would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
The cartels, viewed by the president as the biggest beneficiary of the record-breaking mass migration, raking in billions of dollars, smuggling in millions of people, along with drugs.
They've killed more Americans with their fentanyl, their drugs, than any terrorist organization in the world.
Now, new reports the CIA is reviewing its authorities to use lethal force against them. While the U.S. military massively expanded its role in helping to secure the border, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is warning penetrating it won't be tolerated. This is not just about what's legal, but about repercussions if others are harmed in an attack. The proximity to the U.S. border carries higher risks of collateral damage. This changing landscape is all part of a bigger plan by the White House to crack down on what it sees as terrorists threatening our national security. The case of more than 200 people sent from the United States to this prison in El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 could be just the first of many. The Supreme Court essentially green-lighting its use for now, after being put on hold by a lower court judge. Still, lawyers for some of them insist they are not criminals and have no connections whatsoever to gangs, as previously claimed by the White House.
That they can whisk someone out of the country by accident and then have no responsibility to fix, what they've broken just doesn't make sense as a legal matter and is also just disturbing as a matter of constitutional law.
The law and the Constitution in the spotlight as President Trump implements new methods and policies on immigration. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Indiana is the 23rd state to officially have a measles infection this year, the state confirming their first case this week. Meantime, in Colorado, a second measles patient has been confirmed in Denver after an infant was brought to the hospital with the disease. All patients in that emergency room have been notified about measles exposure. It could still take up to 21 days to see symptoms, which may begin with a cough or a runny nose and a high fever. The state of Maine could could be losing more federal funding. The administration says they are now pulling all non-essential funding for the Maine prison system because it has not moved a biological male from a women's prison. 26-year-old Andrea Balser's parents were stabbed to death in 2016. Andrea, who identifies as female, was convicted in 2018 and is serving a 40-year sentence. Maine sued the administration yesterday to unfreeze more than $1.8 million from the Agriculture Department that was stopped because the state has not changed their approach to Title IX, allowing biological men to compete in women's sports in public schools. A manhunt for a New York murder suspect is underway in Manlius, a suburb of Syracuse. 48-year-old Radazumar Turner is suspected of killing 39-year-old Kenquan Davis. Police say Davis was shot Sunday while driving away from a fight with Turner. He died at the hospital. Turner is described as 6 feet tall, 155 pounds, and was last seen in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Police say they found yesterday at an apartment complex. A soccer coach is charged with murdering a 13-year-old on his team. Officials say Oscar Omar Hernandez was found dead last week in Ventura County, California. He'd visited his coach, Mario Edgardo Garcia Aquino, a few days prior. Garcia Aquino also faces an assault charge related to something that happened last year. Police say he was due in court today. New tonight, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine joined state leaders to support legislation banning smartphones from public schools. Last year, Governor DeWine signed a law that allowed school districts to independently regulate how their local schools handled students' access to smartphones. Well, he says the data they received supports the idea that phones in schools is harmful to students.
Studies consistently show that access to cell phones during school hours negatively impacts student learning and academic performance. Furthermore, these phones can be incredibly harmful to students' mental and emotional health.
Ohio is one of 19 states that has current restrictions on cell phone use in schools. 8 states have banned it outright. 26 states have legislation pending that would remove phones from schools. New safety measures are coming to Meta's platforms. The company announced Instagram users under 16 will need a parent's permission to live stream and to turn off that nudity blurring feature in direct messages. Instagram's teen accounts feature is also coming to Facebook and Messenger. The changes take effect in the United States and a few other countries before rolling out globally. Coming up, what to expect from talks between U.S. and Iranian officials this weekend about Iran's nuclear program. Then the latest on Capitol Hill over conflict over the GOP budget blueprint and why Speaker Johnson is asking the president for help. Then a cybersecurity expert's warning about the unpaid toll scams that are quickly spreading nationwide. We're back in 90 seconds. A UN nuclear watchdog says Iran has been significantly expanding their uranium mining, indicated that they are getting much closer to a nuclear weapons breakout. This as tensions are rising between the U.S. and Iran. The two countries are set for talks this weekend. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
A surprise in the Oval Office Monday.
We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen.
President Trump announcing U.S. officials will talk directly. The talks set to take place in Oman. The topic, Iran's nuclear program in the Middle East.
Which I think is also there to show very publicly what the options are if the talks do not work. Trump showing that he means business if they can't come to some sort of agreement that is satisfactory for him.
Donald Trump tore up the Obama-era nuclear deal during his first administration, repeatedly calling it a very bad deal as it allowed Iran to enrich uranium for what it claimed was a peaceful nuclear program. The talks set for Saturday, marking the first notable signs of progress towards a potential new deal, Donald Trump style.
He does believe in making deals. This is his brand, effectively. But he also believes in making good deals. Perhaps the way he makes deals is
nuclear umbrella. It's going to be much more difficult for us to deal with terrorism and all the terror proxies of Iran if they achieve nuclear weapons.
The U.S. delegation for Saturday's talks with Iran in Oman will reportedly be led by Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff. And as for the Iranians, their side will be led by Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi.
What are we learning, Kayla, about how Iran views these upcoming talks?
Well, Didi, according to reporting from Reuters, Iranian officials say Iran is approaching these talks warily with little confidence progress will be made, and also deep suspicions over the United States' intentions. So a lot of mistrust here. Iran is also continuing to call these talks indirect. Yesterday, in the Oval Office, Donald Trump called the talks direct. And then today, during the press briefing, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also reiterated these would be direct talks. Sources say Iranians have not ruled out face-to-face direct talks, but they want a goodwill gesture from the U.S. first, such as lifting sanctions or unfreezing assets. And Didi, there's no signs the U.S. is willing to make such concessions.
Kayla Gaskins reporting tonight from the Capitol. Thanks for the update. House Speaker Mike Johnson is asking President Trump for help getting Republicans in line behind the Senate's budget blueprint. Some House members are telling Johnson they don't support a House-Senate compromise budget resolution. It must be adopted to advance Trump's legislative agenda. Those who are a no-go worry it will ease up on spending cuts. House GOP leaders say the risks are massive.
There is trillions of dollars on the sidelines, and I've heard this from so many people in different industries all across the country. Trillions of dollars that are not looking at tariffs, that are looking to see what Congress does on the tax code. And they're not going to make those investments until they see a stabilized tax code.
House Republican leader Steve Scalise there highlighting tax cuts in the face of uncertainty swirling around tariffs. Some analysts worry those investments will stay on the sidelines as tariff policy remains volatile. New developments: around 24 soldiers kicked out of the Army for refusing a COVID-19 vaccine are now re-enlisted. The Army says 3 rejoined active duty and more than 20 came back to either the National Guard or the Reserve. This follows President Trump's order that troops be rehired and given back pay. None of the other services finished re-enlistments yet, but they are reaching out to former troops. 5 nurses, 5 brain tumors, 1 floor of the same hospital. An investigation done by Mass General Brigham Newton Wellesley Hospital claims there was no connection or direct cause, and no environmental risks have been identified. All 5 nurses work in the maternity unit there, and they have been diagnosed with benign tumors. The union representing the staff says the testing was not comprehensive, and they are conducting their own review. Johnsonville Bratwurst is recalling more than 20,000 pounds of the cheddar-flavored bratwurst. If you take a look here, that's due to complaints from customers that said they found plastic material in the meat. No injuries have been reported. The recall does affect 10 states: Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, and Wisconsin. If you have any in your freezer, throw it away or return it to the store for a refund. Animatronic pet therapy is taking off in many memory care units across the nation. Medical reporter Barbara Morris takes us to an assisted living facility in Rhode Island where dozens of these lifelike felines were donated and adopted out.
This is as close as you're going to get to the real thing. Purrs, it meows, it licks its paw, adorable. Her mom had one. It brought her such joy. And now, after raising enough money, Colleen McMichael is adopting out dozens of these lifelike felines to the assisted living where her mom spent the last 6 months of her life with her animatronic cat they called Kitty.
She took this cat everywhere. She took it to the dining room. She took it when we went out. She just loved this cat.
All of our products were designed with older adults, not just for them, but with them.
Ted Fisher is the CEO and co-founder of Ageless Innovation. They develop these interactive companions, paying close attention to the details, like when a cat purrs.
So we have a technology called VibraPurr that simulates that action. We're in about 25 countries, and we've got about 700,000 of them now that have been adopted around the world.
I think this is amazing.
Kara Ruffle helped her dad, Don Curran, adopt his new companion, and he already has a name.
George. He wants it to be a boy and named it George.
Janet named her cat Pearl.
She looks like a pearl.
It's just amazing to see how they bond.
Donna McGowan, executive director of the Alzheimer's Association of Rhode Island, calls this the best kind of pet therapy.
Because it brings back somebody way back in their earlier lifetime where it brought them great comfort, and it brings them great comfort now.
Your mom would love this.
She would. I know she's smiling down on us right now.
Ageless Innovation, which produces these Joy for All companion pets, also makes robotic dogs and birds. I'm medical reporter Barbara Morse.
Coming up, the major city that's seen a surge in shoplifting since last year. We'll explain right after this. That matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Washington, D.C., a prime target for a toll scam that's spreading across the country.
As many as 1 billion texts a day are launched by criminals with the help of AI, claiming unpaid tolls, impersonating everything from Easy Pass and Fast Track to SunPass and Drive Easy Maryland, all designed to steal your money and personal information.
The whole trick here, and as far as prevention, is not to engage at all. Because if someone engages in any manner, it tells the AI, it's not even a human at that point, it tells the AI that this is a human and that you have engaged. And at that point, that person becomes very, very susceptible to a lot more scams, a lot more phishing protocols.
Thank you.
Ms. Litz has been dealing with an ever-growing problem.
The past 8 months to a year, it's gotten worse than it has been before.
Shoplifters. According to the latest data from BPD, citywide, shoplifting is up 14% year to date. 4 of the 9 districts seeing a significant increase over a 7-day period from this time last year.
It's time that we had a much more serious conversation about this because stores will continue to close across Maryland.
Cannabis courses were first introduced at UC Merced a few months ago. Here's what's being offered online: cultivation, extraction and product development, and retail specialists.
It's 3 certificates that they can earn across the different type of operational capacities in the cannabis industry.
UC Merced is partnering with Green Flower, which specializes in cannabis education and training. In the past 10 years, it's offered classes at 60 universities and colleges nationwide.
Legal cannabis is a very complex industry to be in. Not only is there the skills needed to cultivate and manufacture and sell the product, but there's all the compliance operations that are necessary.
Coming up, the latest mission on the International Space Station, plus the next step for NASA leadership. This edition of the National News Desk, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10.